February 2, 1943. Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus emerges from the basement of a ruined department store in Stalingrad, his uniform immaculate despite the apocalypse surrounding him. He surrenders 91,000 German soldiers to the Soviet Union. Nothing like it had ever happened in the history of the German army. 6 months earlier, Operation Blue had seemed unstoppable. June 28, 1942. Army Group South smashed through Soviet defenses, racing toward the oil fields of the Caucasus and the industrial city that bore Stalin's name. Hitler's war machine, fresh from conquering France and nearly destroying the Soviet Union the previous year, appeared invincible. General Friedrich Paulus commanded the German Sixth Army, 300,000 men, the most experienced fighting force on Earth. Their objective: capture Stalingrad and strangle Soviet supply lines along the Volga River. It seemed a simple task. But Stalingrad was different. Built along 15 miles of the Volga's western bank, the city stretched like a thin ribbon between the river and the steppe. Its factories, the Red October Steel Works, the Dzerzhinsky tractor plant, the Barakady gun factory, had been converted into fortresses. Every building became a bunker. Every street, a killing field. August 23, 1942. The first German shells struck Stalingrad. General Hermann Hother's 4th Panzer Army attacked from the south while Paulus's 6th Army pressed from the west. The Luftwaffe unleashed 600 bombers in a single day, reducing entire districts to rubble. Yet this destruction became the Soviet Union's salvation. Marshal Georgy Zhukov understood what the Germans did not: rubble created better defensive positions than buildings. Lieutenant General Vasily Chuikov, commanding the 62nd Army, ordered his men to hug the enemy close. So close that German artillery could not fire without killing their own troops. Private Wilhelm Hoffmann of the 24th Panzer Division wrote in his diary, "Stalingrad is no longer a town. By day it is an enormous cloud of burning, blinding smoke, it is a vast furnace lit by the reflection of the flames." The fighting defied all military logic. Battles raged for individual rooms. A kitchen might change hands 6 times in a single day. Private Anatoly Chekhov of the Soviet 13th Guards Division later recalled, "We measured our progress in meters. Sometimes, in centimeters." October 14, 1942. The Germans launched their most ferocious assault. 3 infantry divisions and 2 panzer divisions attacked a front less than 3 miles wide. They captured 90% of the city. Soviet forces controlled only a few hundred meters along the Volga's bank. Victory seemed inevitable. But Stalin had forbidden retreat. Every night, Soviet reinforcements crossed the Volga under German fire. The 13th Guards Division began the crossing with 10,000 men. After 5 days, 320 remained combat effective. They held their positions. Meanwhile, something extraordinary was happening beyond Stalingrad's ruins. Marshal Alexander Vasilevsky was orchestrating Operation Uranus, the largest encirclement operation in military history. November 19, 1942. 4 a.m. Soviet artillery opened fire along a 250-mile front. 1 million Soviet troops, 894 tanks, and 13,000 artillery pieces smashed through German flanks held by Romanian and Italian armies. The German command realized the magnitude of the disaster within hours. General Kurt Zeitzler, Army Chief of Staff, recommended immediate withdrawal. Hitler's response was unequivocal: the 6th Army will hold Stalingrad. November 23, 1942. The Soviet pincers closed. Paulus and his entire army, 300,000 men, were trapped in an area 25 miles long and 12 miles wide. The hunters had become the hunted. Hermann Göring promised to supply the pocket by air. The Sixth Army required 750 tons of supplies daily. The Luftwaffe's maximum delivery, achieved only once, was 289 tons. Most days, they delivered less than 100 tons. German soldiers began starving. December 1942. Temperatures plummeted to -30 degrees Celsius. German soldiers, equipped for summer campaigns, froze in their positions. Dysentery and typhus ravaged the ranks. Horses were slaughtered for food, then rats, then leather boots. Dr. Ottmar, a German army physician, recorded the horror: the wounded cannot be properly fed. They are dying not from their wounds, but from hunger. I have never seen human beings reduced to such a state. December 12, Field Marshal Erich von Manstein launched Operation Winter Storm, a desperate attempt to break through to the Sixth Army. His forces advanced to within 35 miles of the pocket before Soviet reserves stopped them cold. Paulus pleaded for permission to break out. Hitler refused. The Führer promoted him to Field Marshal on January 30, 1943, a cruel gift. No Prussian Field Marshal had ever surrendered. Hitler expected Paulus to commit suicide rather than face capture. January 31, 1943. Soviet forces stormed Paulus's headquarters in the basement of the Univermag department store. The newly promoted Field Marshal chose life over the honor his Führer demanded. The surrender occurred in stages. The southern pocket capitulated on January 31, the northern on February 2. Of the 300,000 German soldiers who entered the Stalingrad pocket, only 91,000 survived to surrender. Of these, fewer than 6,000 ever saw Germany again. Soviet casualties were equally staggering. The Red Army lost an estimated 1.1 million soldiers killed, wounded, or missing during the entire Stalingrad campaign. The city's civilian population dropped from 850,000 to fewer than 10,000. Private Viktor Nekrasov, a Soviet engineer who fought in the grain elevator battles, wrote, "Stalingrad taught us that we could not only die well, but win." The German war machine never recovered. Hitler's armies began their long retreat westward, a retreat that would not end until they reached the bunkers beneath Berlin. Stalingrad proved that the Wehrmacht could be defeated, that Nazi Germany was not invincible, that the tide of war could turn. The city that bore Stalin's name became the graveyard of Hitler.